Oh man, Trump presses Jerome Powell, saying that his termination could not come sooner. Trump is calling for rate cuts. Jerome Powell is not delivering them. What is going to happen? We got markets here a little bit tentative, continuing to fall on traditional markets. Bitcoin trying to show some strength. But here's what the main theme of the day is. Trump blasting Jerome Powell, saying his termination cannot come fast enough. This came on his Truth Social page, where he said the following: the ECB is expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time, and yet too late. Jerome Powell, the Fed, who is always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, and the US is getting rich on tariffs. Too late. Should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. This is a damning indictment from Trump, right? We know he's not super pro Jerome Powell, but you have to understand there's a lot of games at play here. Trump's obviously doing what he's doing in terms of the tariffs, right? And he needs Jerome Powell on his side. He needs the Fed on his side. Ideally, he had a few rate cuts to smooth over some of the pain in the market. He sits there looking at the traditional markets, which continue to stall. Volatility index, the VIX, is climbing again here today. He looks at his major indices like the NASDAQ, continuing to struggle here in the market. I mean, if you take a look here, let's take a look. Stocks fall for a third day as tech struggles again. They're setting themselves up for a bad week, right? We got a shortened trading week this week. Tomorrow is a day off. And Trump is getting frustrated, right? He's getting frustrated because the effects of his tariff are having a longer-term effect on markets. The US Treasury 10-year yield continues to be high at about that 4.3% rate. This will be frustrating him, and he wants the easy fix of Jerome Powell coming in and cutting rates. Now, I could sit here and say that's fantastic. I want to see rate cuts, right? I want to see rate cuts. I want to see us go to the moon. I want to see the money printer back on. And eventually the money printer will come back on. But what's interesting here is how Trump wants Powell to do his dirty work for him, right? And the reality is things don't work that way. Jerome Powell came out yesterday in the speech, which we covered off live, and I gave a summary video here on the channel as well. It's highly worth you guys going and watching that. He said that the effects of the tariff inflation could be, right, quite persistent. And that's what frightened markets. That's what led to the sell-off. Literally, as he was speaking, just before he was speaking, Bitcoin was up 2%. By the time he was done speaking, Bitcoin was down, right? We lost $2,000 in the price of Bitcoin 15 minutes when he started speaking. And that is because markets are worried about this sticky transitory inflation, which doesn't actually go away and becomes this persistent inflation like we saw post the pandemic. Fundamentally, Jerome Powell was trying to manufacture a soft landing. We can see from the data that the economy is pretty healthy. Hold up, do you want to learn how to trade? Then you need to jump into our Telegram community. Link is in the description. In our Telegram community, I share my altcoins. I share how I do my trade setups, how I do my stop losses and take profit, so you can learn to become a profitable trader. Check it out, link is in the description, right? Inflation was coming meaningfully down to that 2% target. To all intents and purposes, Jerome Powell was steering for a soft landing, only for Trump to come in, play his tariff bonanza, and now throw the markets in jeopardy. If you're Jerome Powell, you're hugely frustrated, right? You nearly pulled off one of the best soft landings in history. He was going to get all the applause, he was going to get the claps and the celebrations, and then Trump comes in and throws a spanner in the works. A spanner in the works which directly affects the numbers that Jerome Powell monitors, which is his labor figures and, of course, that CPI inflation figure. It's going to affect it. So when we sit here and see that Trump is pressing him, right, it's good from a political perspective to say, oh no, look, Europe are cutting, why are we not cutting? Well, US are not cutting because US are going to face some inflation because of all these tariffs. It's the US causing it, right? And that's why you're seeing the dollar weaker. That's why you're seeing the US 10-year spike. This is against the US, right? And that's the problem here. This is not that, oh, look, the rest of the central banks are cutting. Why are we not cutting? And that's something we need to understand. Now, ultimately, am I worried longer term? No. At some point, we will get a cut, right? When is that cut? The market continues to think it's not going to be at the next meeting. They've priced in, not unanimously, but 61% of the market has priced in that we'll get one in June. June the 18th is the meeting after the next meeting. And they're expecting we'll get our rate cut then, taking us down to that 4 to 4.25% rate on the Fed funds rate. But again, who cares, right? At some point, we're going to get a chance to print and we're going to go parabolic. We've got an opportunity here, which is the most important opportunity for accumulating as much as possible before money starts entering the system, right? Are you taking advantage of it? Fundamentally, that is what I'd be asking in this market. Now, when you jump back onto the charts, you can see that here that Bitcoin is printing, a slightly green candlestick so far today. Again, 8 hours to go before this daily candle closes. But you can see ever since Saturday, really, the last 5-6 days or so, we've just been struggling here at the CMA ribbon, which is a little bit worrying, right? We do need some strong volume to come in. We need a strong catalyst just to push us above 86k, get a daily candle close above our EMA ribbon, and then things can start to look strong again. The bears will be hoping the opposite, right? They want to reject us. They want to throw us off this EMA ribbon, much like they did here, much like they've done here, much like they've done here. They're going to want to keep momentum, shove us down, because on the next leg down, if the bears are successful, they'll be aiming for a lower high, right? They'd want to head even lower than these previous lows, maybe down to 72, and maybe even testing a little bit below 70 as well. So those are some of the levels we're looking at in the charts. Of course, on the weekly chart, we have managed to, show some strength here this week, albeit, a little bit vulnerable. Hopefully tomorrow could be an interesting day, because again, this weekly candle closes on Sunday, but we've got a long weekend, right? And that could work in our favor, because what you found is that Bitcoin's showing relative strength, but when the US market opens up, it starts to have a bit of a panic attack. So what may be good is, whilst the US markets close tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, and Bitcoin continues to trade into the weekly candle close, maybe we can show some strength to climb higher. So really key level here at the weekly chart, and hopefully we can build some momentum here to start climbing higher. Now guys, if you actively want to trade with me, you can do so using the link in the description to Femex. They're offering some amazing bonuses, so check that out. Link will be in the description to claim up to $30,000 in welcome bonuses, and you can also get a $5,000 mock funds for you to just practice trading. You can use my signals as well, which I offer in our Telegram community, and just get yourself actively trading, right? There's a lot of profits to be made in the charts daily, and I'll help you do so if you follow the link in the description. So when I look at things overall holistically, I look at things and I see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And ultimately, I'm feeling really positive about the light at the end of the tunnel, because I see a day when Jerome Powell starts cutting, right? I see a loosening of the monetary policy. It won't stay this high for too long. I see a period where Trump starts to make meaningful progress negotiating tariffs. And so I look at this almost as, the period of peak fear. I think last week was much more peak fear than this week, but still, this is still the fear period. And I think things are going to get a lot better. And I think we're going to see negotiations on the tariffs. I think we're going to see inflation spike and then calm down again after a couple of readings. I think, we should start to see meaningful progress on this fear that markets are currently deeming as the fear of today. And once that worry wall starts to dissipate, typically we start to see strength to the upside. And like I've maintained throughout this kind of tariff saga, I feel like there's underlying strength in the economy, and I feel like there's underlying strength here in Bitcoin. Bitcoin, for me, is looking to move strongly. Once Bitcoin starts moving, I fully expect altcoins, once we rotate risk on, of course, to start following in its suit. Right now, we're not seeing that, right? Bitcoin dominance here is just sitting at 4-year records of 64%, showing tremendous strength, just like gold is, right? Just like gold is showing tremendous strength as well. This is because people want someone somewhere safe to park their money right now. Normally, their safe place is the dollar, right? Consider the risk-free asset. They go into government bonds. They park their money there. Not with the yields climbing. People do not want to be in the government bonds, given that it's the US who are at the center of this trade war. This is why we're seeing a struggling in the charts right now. Crypto fear and greed index sitting at 30. If we quickly look at the liquidations, another 200 million getting wrecked in leverage. Guys, stay away from that painful leverage. So that continues to play out like it's playing out. And again, no respites in terms of altcoins, right? Nowhere to hide in terms of altcoins, which continue to kind of suffer, even though Bitcoin is showing good relative strength here in the market. So continue to stay here just around that 85k. Bitcoin clearly is trying to build some courage and some strength to break through 86. I think we're going to need some catalyst. We're going to need some sort of positive update on the tariffs / something from Trump, or a negotiation with Europe or Japan or Mexico, in order for us to really break through 86 and start working forward towards 90k. Hopefully you found this update useful. If you like this type of content, smash up the likes. Do not forget to subscribe. Check out the links in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.